Captain Jake Morrison stood by the big window of his ship, looking at the huge space station that spun slowly among the stars. The station belonged to the Galactic Council, and it was bigger than any city on Earth. For 3 years, humans had been trying to work with the 47 different alien races that made up this council. They had hoped to learn from each other and build something better together. But Jake had learned that these aliens did not want to build anything new. They only wanted to keep things exactly the same as they had been for 2,000 years. Inside the council meeting room, Ambassador Lisa Carter was giving what would be humanity's final speech to the council. The room was filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked like walking crystals, others like giant insects, and some were so weird that humans had no words to describe them. They all spoke different languages, but machines translated everything so everyone could understand. The tall crystal being called Veltar was the leader of the council. His voice sounded like music when he spoke, but his words were not pleasant. "Humans want to change too much too fast," he said to the room. "Your people have good ideas, but ideas without wisdom bring danger. We have kept peace in this part of space for 2,000 years by being very careful about new things." Lisa felt angry, but kept her voice calm. "With respect, sir, your careful ways have also kept entire star systems cut off from each other. People are dying from diseases we could cure if information could travel faster. Ships take months to go places they could reach in days with better technology. The insect-like alien called Kethmal made clicking sounds that meant he was upset. Humans always want to rush forward without thinking. This is why young races need older ones to guide them and tell them what they can and cannot do." Dr. Ryan Price sat behind Lisa, holding a thick folder of papers. He had spent months writing down everything he had learned about the council. His report showed that the council did not just move slowly. They actively stopped anyone from making new discoveries or inventions. They were more interested in keeping their power than in helping their people live better lives. For months, Lisa had been asking the council for permission to do simple things. She wanted human scientists to work with alien scientists. She wanted to explore new parts of space. She wanted to share human medical knowledge that could save lives. Every single request had been denied or buried in paperwork that would take years to complete. The final insult came when the council voted to stop humans from exploring beyond the small area of space they had been assigned. "We are concerned that humans expand too quickly," Veltar explained. "Young races often cause problems when they are allowed to grow without limits." Lisa had heard enough. She stood up and every eye in the room turned to her. Her voice was clear and strong when she spoke. "We came here hoping to work together as equals. Instead, we found a system that treats us like children who cannot be trusted. We hoped to share knowledge and explore the galaxy together. Instead, we found rules designed to keep everyone weak and dependent." The room became very quiet. No one had ever spoken to the council like this before. Lisa continued. "Humanity officially withdraws from the Galactic Council, starting right now. We will pack up everything we own and leave your space. We will take our people, our knowledge, and our dreams somewhere else." Veltar's crystal body flashed with angry light. "You are making a terrible mistake, human. No race has ever survived alone in this galaxy. You need the Council's protection and guidance. Maybe no one has survived alone because no one has been brave enough to try," Lisa replied. "We would rather fail trying to reach our potential than succeed at staying small." Jake watched from his ship as Lisa and her team left the council station and returned to their shuttle. Within hours, every human ship in council space was preparing to leave. They were not just leaving the meeting. They were leaving everything behind and starting over somewhere else. The humans had been busy during their 3 years with the council. They had people working on dozens of different alien worlds. Dr. Emma Brooks had been helping the crystal people understand new kinds of energy. Engineer Carl Johnson had been designing better engines for the insect people's ships. Teacher Lucy Adams had been creating new ways for different races to talk to each other. All of these humans were now packing up and leaving. They took with them everything they had learned. But more importantly, they took away their help and ideas from the aliens who had grown to depend on them. The council had not realized how much they needed the humans until they were gone. The crystal people's energy research stopped working without Dr. Brooks. The insect people's ship started breaking down without Carl's designs. Communication between different races became much harder without Lucy's translation systems. But the humans were not just running away. They had a plan. While the council spent years talking about every decision, humans could think fast and act faster. They had already been secretly talking to alien races that the council had rejected or ignored. Captain Steve Morgan was leading a group of human ships toward the edge of known space, where they had heard about aliens called the Corvani. The council had labeled the Corvani as too dangerous because they were competitive and direct. But Dr. Claire Foster, who studied alien cultures, thought the council was wrong. The Corvani are not dangerous, she told Steve after reading all the reports. They are just different from what the council expects. They value strength and competition, which scares the council because the council values only agreement and staying the same. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter was working day and night to coordinate humanity's new plan. They were not just leaving the council. They were building something completely different. The Human Independence Alliance would welcome any alien race that wanted freedom to grow and explore without asking permission from a committee of bureaucrats. We are not trying to replace the council, she explained to her advisors. We are offering something better, freedom to invent, explore, and become whatever we can become without having to ask permission from people who are afraid of change. The first big success came just weeks after leaving council space. Dr. Brooks, working with materials and ideas from the Corvani, invented a new way for ships to talk to each other across vast distances almost instantly. Instead of messages taking months to travel between stars, they could now travel in just hours. When news of this breakthrough reached the council, it caused panic. For the first time in 2,000 years, someone had made a major scientific discovery without council approval. Someone had proven that progress was possible without their permission. High Magistrate Veltar called an emergency meeting. The humans are causing chaos, he declared. They are encouraging other races to ignore our authority and make dangerous changes. But it was too late. The humans had shown that another way was possible. Across the galaxy, other alien races began to wonder why they had accepted the council's restrictions for so long. Some began to ask if maybe the humans were right about growth and freedom being better than safety and control. The day humanity left the Galactic Council was indeed the beginning of something that would change everything. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council meeting, and the entire galaxy was feeling the effects of their departure. What the council leaders had dismissed as a foolish decision by an immature species was turning out to be something much bigger and more dangerous to their way of life. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the massive human fleet called the UES Horizon as it moved toward the outer edges of the galaxy. Behind her ship followed hundreds of other vessels carrying every single human who had been living in council space. This was not just a small group of angry diplomats leaving after a bad meeting. This was an entire species packing up everything they owned and starting over somewhere completely new. Commander Alex Bennett stood beside Kate on the bridge, looking at the displays that showed their enormous convoy. Final count shows 200,000 humans successfully evacuated from all council territories, he reported. Every research station, every embassy, every trading post has been emptied and abandoned. Kate nodded as she studied the data. The humans had not just left, they had taken everything with them. Every piece of research, every cultural exchange program, every technological collaboration had been terminated and classified as human property. The council was just beginning to understand what they had lost. Dr. Nina Ross had been working with the Crystal aliens on their most important energy research project. Her work had been close to solving problems that had puzzled the Crystal people for centuries. When she left, she took all her notes, all her discoveries, and all her understanding of how to make the research continue. The Crystal people were left with expensive equipment they no longer knew how to use. Engineer Paul Martinez had spent 2 years redesigning the engines used by the insect aliens' space fleet. His new designs made their ships 30% more efficient and 50% faster. When Paul left, he took the blueprints, the instruction manuals, and most importantly, the knowledge of how to maintain and repair the new systems. Within weeks, the insect aliens' ships began breaking down. Linguist Amy Stevens had been developing a universal translation system that would have allowed all the different alien races to communicate with each other much more easily. The project had been 90% complete when the humans left. Amy took all the language databases, all the programming code, and all the communication protocols with her. The council was left with a half-finished system they could not complete or understand. On the council station, High Magistrate Veltar was receiving reports that grew more alarming every day. 17 major research projects have been suspended due to lack of human expertise, his aide reported nervously. The Altarians report their fleet efficiency has dropped by 30%. The Zephyrians cannot continue their crystal harmonics research without Dr. Ross. Veltar's crystal body dimmed with concern. For 2,000 years, the Council had maintained control by making sure no single species became too important or powerful. But somehow, in just 3 years, the humans had become essential to the functioning of multiple Council civilizations. Their departure was causing problems the Council had never faced before. Meanwhile, at the edge of known space, the humans were making contact with alien species that the Council had either ignored or actively avoided. Captain Steve Morgan piloted his exploration ship, the UES Pioneer, toward a star system where they had detected signs of an advanced civilization that the Council had labeled as quarantined. The aliens living there called themselves the Corvani, and they were nothing like what the Council had described. Dr. Claire Foster, who specialized in studying alien cultures, met with the Corvani leadership and quickly realized that the Council had been completely wrong about them. The Corvani are not aggressive or dangerous, she reported to Steve after her first diplomatic meeting. They are competitive and direct in their communication, but that is just their cultural style. The Council labeled them as threatening because they refused to follow the Council's rules about avoiding conflict and competition. War Chief Thax, the leader of the Corvani, was fascinated by the humans and their story. Your people understand something that the Council fears, he told Claire during their negotiations. Growth and progress require challenge and competition. The Council wants everyone to be weak and dependent so they can stay in control. The Corvani had technologies that the Council had forbidden them from developing. They had powerful energy weapons, advanced shield systems, and most importantly, a cultural attitude that valued strength and innovation over safety and tradition. When the humans proposed an alliance, Thax agreed immediately. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter was coordinating the largest political and social transformation in human history. The Human Independence Alliance was not just a military or economic partnership. It was a completely new way of organizing civilization based on freedom, growth, and voluntary cooperation instead of control and restriction. We are offering something that has never existed in this galaxy, she explained to her cabinet during one of their daily planning sessions. A civilization where species can develop their full potential without asking permission from a committee that is afraid of change. The first major breakthrough of the alliance came when Dr. Ross combined her knowledge of crystal energy with Corvani power, manipulation techniques. Working together in ways the Council had never permitted, they developed a faster-than-light communication system that could transmit messages across the entire galaxy in hours instead of months. This achievement sent shockwaves through Council space because it proved that rapid technological advancement was possible when restrictions were removed. For 2,000 years, the Council had insisted that careful, slow development was the only safe way to make progress. The humans and their new allies had just proven that was a lie. The Thessian Collective was the next group to contact the Alliance. These brilliant engineers had been frustrated for decades by the Council's slow approval processes for new technologies. When they heard about the Alliance's rapid achievements, they quietly sent a diplomatic mission to meet with human representatives. We have been trying to get approval for new construction techniques for 15 years, the Thessian ambassador explained to Kate Sullivan during a secret meeting. The Council keeps demanding more studies and more safety reviews. Meanwhile, we could have built better cities and space stations that would improve life for millions of people. Within weeks, the Thessians had formally withdrawn from the Council and joined the Alliance. Their advanced engineering knowledge, combined with human innovation and Corvani energy systems, led to even more rapid technological development. The Verdani followed soon after. These master botanists and terraforming experts had been restricted by Council environmental regulations that prevented them from using their knowledge to transform dead planets into garden worlds. The Alliance offered them unlimited freedom to practice their craft, and they accepted eagerly. Captain Danny Rodriguez now commanded the UES Defiance, which had become the flagship for joint human-alien operations. His crew included humans, Corvani, Thessians and Verdani working together in ways that would have been impossible under Council rules. They were not just cooperating, they were creating new technologies and techniques by combining their different knowledge and abilities. The Council envoy is requesting another meeting, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Beth Walsh. Danny smiled as he looked at the tactical display showing their latest achievement. The Alliance had just completed construction of a massive space station using technologies from all 4 member species, and they had finished it in record time. "Tell them we are too busy building the future to waste time talking about the past," he replied. The Alliance was growing stronger every day, and with each new member, their combined achievements accelerated beyond what any single species could have accomplished alone. They were proving that cooperation without restriction could achieve more than careful regulation ever had, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. 1 year after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. The Human Independence Alliance had grown from a single angry species to a coalition of 12 different civilizations, and several of these had actually left the Council specifically to join the humans and their revolutionary approach to cooperation. The Alliance was achieving things that the Council had claimed were impossible. Where the Council moved slowly and carefully, requiring years of committee meetings to approve even simple changes, the Alliance made decisions quickly and implemented them immediately. Where the Council restricted technological development to maintain stability, the Alliance encouraged rapid innovation and shared all discoveries freely among member species. Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the UES, Defiance, from the bridge of what had become the most advanced starship in the galaxy. His crew was unlike anything that had ever existed before. Humans working alongside Corvani warriors, Thessian engineers, Verdani botanists, and representatives from 8 other species that had joined the Alliance. They were not just tolerating each other's differences, they were combining their unique abilities to create something greater than any single species could achieve alone. Alliance Command is transmitting the latest construction reports, announced Lieutenant Beth Walsh from her position at the communication station. The joint space station project has been completed ahead of schedule. Danny smiled as he reviewed the data. The Alliance had just finished building the largest artificial structure in galactic history, and they had done it in 6 months instead of the decades such a project would have required under Council oversight. Every member species had contributed their best technologies and techniques, creating a space station that was simultaneously a research center, a manufacturing facility, a diplomatic hub, and a symbol of what cooperation without restriction could accomplish. Dr. Ryan Price, now serving as the Alliance's chief science coordinator, marveled at the speed of their progress every day. 18 months ago, the fastest anyone could travel between star systems was 3 weeks, he explained to a group of new Alliance members. Today, our ships can make the same journey in 5 days, and our communication networks allow us to coordinate activities across the entire galaxy in real time. The key to the Alliance's success was their approach to sharing knowledge. Unlike the Council, which hoarded information and restricted access to advanced technologies, the Alliance operated on the principle that all discoveries belong to everyone. When the Corvani developed new energy weapons, they immediately shared the designs with human engineers. When the Thessians invented better construction materials, they taught the techniques to Verdani terraformers. When humans created faster communication systems, they gave the technology freely to anyone who wanted to use it. This open sharing led to rapid advances that surprised even the Alliance members themselves. Human creativity combined with Corvani energy manipulation produced shield systems that were stronger than anything previously imagined. Thessian engineering merged with Verdani biological expertise, created self-repairing buildings that could adapt to changing environmental conditions. Corvani competitive drive paired with human determination resulted in exploration, missions that discovered new star systems every week. The Council's response to these developments had been predictably bureaucratic. They issued formal protests, imposed economic sanctions that the Alliance simply ignored, and sent diplomatic messages demanding that the Alliance stop destabilizing the galactic order. But they had not taken any direct military action, because their entire governmental structure was designed around slow consensus building among dozens of Species with conflicting interests. High Magistrate. Veltar convened emergency session after emergency session, but each meeting only highlighted how unable the Council was to respond effectively to rapid change. The humans and their allies are violating every principle of responsible development, he declared to the assembled representatives. Their reckless pursuit of advancement without proper oversight threatens the stability we have maintained for 2 millennia. But even within the Council, growing numbers of beings were beginning to question whether stability was worth the price they were paying for it. Younger members of many Council species watched the Alliance's achievements with admiration rather than fear. They wondered why their own governments accepted restrictions that seemed designed to prevent them from reaching their full potential. The tipping point came when the Makari, one of the 3 founding species of the Galactic Council, quietly approached the Alliance about changing sides. Ambassador Zara, Reed met with the Makari delegation on a neutral space station at the border between Council and Alliance territory. "We have observed your progress with great interest," admitted the Makari representative, whose crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "Our people grow increasingly restless with the Council's limitations. We are builders and explorers by nature, but we have not been permitted to establish a new colony in over 3 centuries." Zara leaned forward, recognizing the historic significance of this moment. "The Alliance does not restrict expansion or exploration," she replied carefully. "We believe that growth, discovery, and innovation are fundamental rights of all intelligent species, not privileges to be granted by committee approval." The Makari's decision to leave the Council and join the Alliance sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. As one of the founding species, their departure represented a fundamental challenge to the Council's authority and legitimacy. If the Makari, who had helped create the Council system, no longer believed in its value, then perhaps that system was truly obsolete. Other species began to reconsider their membership in the Council. The Nexari, master traders who had been frustrated by commercial regulations, sent secret envoys to Alliance space. The Quentari, brilliant scientists whose research had been restricted by safety protocols, began openly questioning the Council's policies. The Voltani, proud warriors who had been forced to limit their military development, started making contact with Corvani war chief Thax. Each new species that joined the Alliance brought unique capabilities that enhanced the collective strength of the whole organization. The Nexari provided trade networks that connected the Alliance to resource-rich systems the Council had ignored. The Quentari contributed scientific knowledge that accelerated research across multiple fields. The Voltani offered military expertise that strengthened Alliance defenses without compromising their peaceful intentions. Dr. Nina Ross, working from the Alliance's central research facility, coordinated scientific collaboration on a scale that had never been attempted before. "We now have research teams that include members from 15 different species working on unified projects," she reported to Alliance leadership. "The rate of discovery has increased exponentially because each species contributes perspectives and techniques that the others would never have considered." Captain Steve Morgan, commanding deep space exploration missions, reported similar success in expanding Alliance territory and influence. "We have established contact with over 30 previously unknown civilizations in the past 6 months," he announced during a strategy meeting. "Most of them are eager to learn about our approach to cooperation and development." The Alliance continued to grow not through conquest or coercion, but through the simple appeal of freedom and opportunity. Species that had spent centuries accepting limitations imposed by others discovered that alternatives existed. They learned that progress did not have to be slow, that innovation did not have to be dangerous, and that cooperation could be achieved without sacrificing individual identity or autonomy. President Helen Carter, addressing the Alliance Council from Earth, summarized their achievement in simple terms. "We have proven that civilization does not have to choose between growth and stability. We have shown that different species can work together without losing what makes them unique. We have demonstrated that the future belongs to those who are brave enough to embrace change rather than fear it." The Alliance had become more than just an alternative to the Council. It had become proof that a better way of organizing galactic civilization was possible. And as more species joined their cause, the old order represented by the Council seemed increasingly outdated and irrelevant. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's decision to leave the Council was at the center of that transformation. 2 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, both the Alliance and the Council faced a threat unlike anything they had ever encountered before. Long-range sensors at the edge of the galaxy detected massive energy signatures approaching from the dark void between galaxies, where no known civilization had ever existed or could survive. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the Alliance Command Center, studying the incoming data with growing concern. The objects approaching their galaxy were enormous beyond comprehension, each one larger than the biggest cities that any species had ever built. They moved faster than the laws of physics should have allowed, and they were not responding to any attempts at communication. How much time do we have before they reach inhabited space? Kate asked Dr. Nina Ross, who had become the Alliance's leading expert on advanced technologies and unknown phenomena. Nina looked up from her analysis with worry clearly visible on her face. "Based on their current speed and trajectory, approximately 4 months," she replied. "But Admiral, these are not ships in any sense that we understand. They appear to be mobile space stations or perhaps entire artificial worlds, and their technology operates on principles we cannot identify." The approaching objects had been detected simultaneously by both Alliance and Council sensor networks, leading to the first direct communication between the two factions since humanity's dramatic departure. High Magistrate Veltar transmitted a message that reached every Alliance world within hours. "An unknown force of unprecedented size and capability approaches our galaxy. Despite our political differences, we must consider the possibility of mutual defense against this threat." President Helen Carter immediately called an emergency session of the Alliance Council. Representatives from 18 member species gathered through holographic communication to discuss the crisis. The speed and efficiency of their decision-making process stood in stark contrast to the Council's approach, which was still debating whether to officially acknowledge that the threat existed. "We need more information about these intruders before we can plan any response," declared Corviny War Chief Tax, his warrior instincts immediately focusing on tactical considerations. "My people volunteer to lead reconnaissance missions to gather intelligence. Our stealth technology can provide advantages for close observation," added the Thessian representative, already thinking about the technical challenges involved. Within 6 hours of detecting the threat, Joint Alliance reconnaissance fleets were already departing for the edge of the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was still forming committees to study the problem and requesting detailed reports from multiple departments before taking any action. The reconnaissance mission was led by Captain Jake Morrison in the heavily upgraded UES Liberty, accompanied by ships from 5 different Alliance species. Their journey to the galaxy's edge took 3 days using the Alliance's latest faster-than-light technology, compared to the weeks such a trip would have required using Council-approved transportation methods. What they discovered at the edge of known space changed everyone's understanding of what was possible in the universe. The approaching objects were not just large, they existed partially outside normal space and time, shifting between dimensions in ways that hurt to observe directly. Their technology seemed to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. "They are harvesting energy directly from the fabric of space-time," reported Dr. Claire Foster, who had analyzed the sensor data during their return journey. "Their capabilities are so far beyond anything we have achieved that both Council and Alliance technologies appear primitive by comparison." Lieutenant Commander Pete Hughes, the Liberty's tactical officer, added his own disturbing observations. "They have scanned us in return. They are aware of our presence, and they have begun changing course toward our galaxy. We are no longer just observing them. They are actively approaching us." 3 weeks after the reconnaissance mission returned, the unknown civilization sent their first communication. It did not arrive through normal transmission methods, but somehow appeared directly in the minds of every intelligent being in the galaxy simultaneously, regardless of species or location. "We are the Harvesters. We travel between galaxies collecting the achievements of younger civilizations before they reach their potential and destroy themselves through their own advancement. Your galaxy shows unusual promise and diversity. Prepare for evaluation and preservation." The message triggered panic across both Council and Alliance space. The Harvesters were not coming as traditional conquerors seeking territory or resources. They saw themselves as preservationists, collecting the greatest achievements of civilizations before those civilizations could allegedly destroy themselves through technological Emergency meetings erupted throughout the galaxy as both political systems struggled to comprehend and respond to this unprecedented threat. The Council's traditional approach of lengthy deliberation and careful consensus building seemed pathetically inadequate when faced with beings who could manipulate space and time itself. The Alliance, however, immediately began coordinating a unified response using their integrated communication networks and rapid decision-making processes. Dr. Ross assembled research teams from every member species to analyze harvester technology for potential weaknesses. Alliance military commanders developed preliminary defense strategies while diplomatic specialists attempted to understand harvester motivations and psychology. The fundamental difference between the two approaches became clear when the harvesters sent their second communication 2 weeks later. Evaluation will begin with the dominant political entities of this galaxy. Prepare to present your greatest technological and cultural achievements for preservation in our archives. The Council began an elaborate process of selecting which technologies and cultural artifacts to present to the harvesters. Committees were formed to evaluate the relative merits of different scientific discoveries. Diplomatic protocols were established for conducting negotiations with beings of superior technology. Lengthy debates began about which aspects of galactic civilization were most worthy of preservation. The Alliance took a completely different approach. Instead of preparing to be preserved like museum pieces, they decided to demonstrate that their civilization was too dynamic and unpredictable to be contained or archived. Alliance leaders concluded that the best defense against preservation was to prove that they were actively growing and evolving too rapidly to be captured or catalogued. Dr. Ross coordinated the Alliance's most ambitious technological development project in their brief history. Research teams from 18 different species began working together to create something unprecedented, a form of technology that could adapt and evolve in real time, incorporating new discoveries and innovations as they were made. If the harvesters collect static civilizations, she explained to Alliance leadership, then we need to show them a civilization that never stops changing and growing. Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the Alliance fleet that would serve as their demonstration to the harvesters. His ships had been equipped with the new adaptive technology systems that could modify themselves continuously based on new information and changing circumstances. Meanwhile, Ambassador Zara Reed led diplomatic efforts to convince remaining Council species to join the Alliance before the harvesters arrived. This is not about politics anymore, she argued in her communications to Council worlds. This is about proving that our galaxy's civilizations are worth preserving as living, growing entities rather than static museum displays. The race was now on between two very different approaches to survival. The Council sought to preserve themselves by presenting their best achievements to superior beings and hoping for mercy. The Alliance sought to preserve themselves by demonstrating that they were too vibrant and dynamic to be contained by any external force, no matter how advanced. As the harvesters continued their approach toward the galaxy, both the Council and the Alliance prepared for an encounter that would determine not just their political future, but the very nature of civilization itself. The next few months would prove whether growth and change were strengths to be celebrated or dangers to be controlled, and whether the universe had room for civilizations that refused to accept limitations imposed by others. The harvesters arrived with 12 massive structures that made every other achievement in galactic history seem small and insignificant. Each ship existed partially outside normal reality, shifting between dimensions in ways that caused physical pain to observe directly. They positioned themselves throughout the galaxy with casual ease, demonstrating technology that operated on principles no one had ever imagined possible. High Magistrate Veltar led the Council's delegation aboard the primary harvester vessel, accompanied by representatives from each major Council species. The audience chamber was a space that seemed to extend infinitely in all directions, filled with displays showing the preserved achievements of countless civilizations from across the universe. The Harvester Prime appeared as a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix that pulsed with the light of distant stars. When it spoke, its voice resonated through reality itself, bypassing normal hearing and communicating directly with the consciousness of its listeners. Your civilization follows the typical pattern we have observed throughout the universe, the Harvester Prime explained. to the Council delegation. Initial rapid growth, followed by gradual stagnation as regulatory systems develop to prevent dangerous advancement. You have achieved stability through restriction, maintaining peace at the cost of progress. Your achievements are worthy of preservation. Before the inevitable decline that affects all such civilizations, the Council representatives felt both honored and terrified to be judged worthy of preservation by beings of such obvious superiority. They began presenting their greatest technological and cultural achievements, hoping to demonstrate their value and secure favorable treatment in whatever preservation process the harvesters intended to implement. Meanwhile, Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the Alliance response from the UES Unity, a massive vessel that had been constructed using technologies from all 21 member species. Rather than requesting an audience with the harvesters, the Alliance was demonstrating their capabilities through direct action and continuous innovation. Dr. Nina Ross had worked with research teams from across the Alliance to develop something that had never existed before, a technological system that could create new innovations in real time by combining knowledge and techniques from different species as circumstances required. As the harvesters observed, the Alliance fleet began modifying itself continuously, adapting and evolving its capabilities moment by moment. Interesting, the Harvester Prime noted as it studied the Alliance activities through sensors that operated across multiple dimensions. This behavior pattern is unexpected and does not match our previous observations of galactic civilizations, Captain. Danny Rodriguez transmitted the Alliance's response directly to the Harvester Prime. We appreciate your interest in preserving civilizations, but we believe you have misunderstood something fundamental about the nature of life and growth. Civilizations are not meant to be preserved like artifacts in a museum. They are meant to continue growing, changing, and facing whatever challenges the universe presents. We are not asking to be preserved because we intend to preserve ourselves while continuing to evolve. The demonstration that followed changed everything, that the harvesters thought they understood about how civilizations develop and survive. Alliance vessels began linking together in ways that had never been attempted before, sharing technologies and capabilities in real time. Human innovation merged with Corvani energy manipulation, Thessian engineering combined with Verdani biological systems, and Makari construction techniques integrated with knowledge from dozens of other species. Before the harvesters' advanced sensors, the Alliance fleet transformed into something entirely new, a collective technological organism that incorporated the best aspects of every member civilization while maintaining the individual character and identity of each species. It was simultaneously one unified entity and 21 distinct cultures working together voluntarily. Dr. Claire Foster achieved a breakthrough that surprised even her Alliance colleagues when she successfully analyzed harvester technology itself. They are not just advanced, she reported to Alliance leadership. They are completely static. Their technology has not changed or improved in millions of years because they have convinced themselves that preservation is superior to growth and that perfection can be achieved through stagnation. The Alliance's response was to prove exactly the opposite principle. They began developing technologies that not only matched harvester capabilities, but exceeded them by incorporating constant innovation and adaptation. While harvester technology represented static perfection achieved through eons of refinement, Alliance technology embodied dynamic evolution that improved continuously through challenge and change. The critical moment arrived when the harvesters attempted to begin their preservation process on the Council species. Massive energy beams designed to capture and archive entire civilizations encountered unexpected resistance from Alliance intervention. Alliance ships positioned themselves between the harvesters and Council space, using their rapidly evolving technology to disrupt the preservation process. You cannot preserve what actively chooses to continue growing and changing, President Helen Carter transmitted to both the harvesters and the Council species. And we will not permit you to preserve anyone who wants to continue evolving and reaching their potential. But more importantly than their technological intervention, the Alliance offered the Council species something the harvesters never could, a choice between preservation and continued growth. Join us, Admiral Sullivan transmitted to all Council worlds, not as subjects to be protected or specimens to be preserved, but as partners in continued development. Help us demonstrate to the universe that civilizations do not have to choose between stability and progress. What followed was the most rapid political transformation in galactic history. Within hours, entire Council species were declaring their withdrawal from the Council and their intention to join the Alliance. They were drawn not by conquest or coercion, but by the promise of unlimited growth and the demonstration that such growth could be achieved without chaos or destruction. The Harvester Prime found itself facing something that had never occurred in millions of years of operation across countless galaxies. It encountered a civilization that refused to be preserved and possessed the technological capability to resist preservation. More significantly, it was witnessing a civilization that continued to evolve and improve even under the pressure of superior force, becoming stronger and more capable moment by moment. This is impossible according to all our observations, the Harvester Prime transmitted, its crystalline form pulsing with confusion. All civilizations follow the same developmental pattern. Rapid growth followed by peak achievement, then gradual stagnation and finally decline into extinction. This is why preservation is necessary. Jake Morrison responded from the bridge of the UES Liberty. That pattern only applies to civilizations that accept limitations imposed by others or by their own fear of change. Humanity learned something important when we left the Council. Sometimes the greatest growth comes from refusing to accept restrictions that others consider necessary for safety. The Alliance fleet had evolved beyond what even its own creators had thought possible. Technologies that should have been incompatible were working together seamlessly. Species that had never interacted were collaborating as if they had been partners for centuries. Most remarkably, they had achieved this integration without any species losing its individual identity or cultural uniqueness. The Harvesters, confronted with a form of civilization that contradicted every pattern they had observed over millions of years, made a decision that shocked everyone involved. They requested permission to study the Alliance rather than preserve it. "You have created something unprecedented," the Harvester Prime admitted, "a form of civilization that maintains stability through growth rather than restriction, that achieves cooperation without uniformity, and that becomes stronger through challenge rather than weaker. We wish to understand how this is possible." 6 months later, the galaxy had been transformed beyond all recognition. The Galactic Council had voluntarily dissolved itself, replaced by the Galactic Alliance, a voluntary association of hundreds of species committed to mutual growth and unlimited exploration. The Harvesters had established permanent research stations throughout Alliance space, studying this new form of civilization, while contributing their own vast knowledge to the collective advancement of all member species. Dr. Ross stood on the observation deck of the new Alliance headquarters, watching ships from hundreds of different species working together on projects that would have been impossible under any previous system. Who could have predicted that humanity leaving the Council would lead to this? She asked President Carter, who had joined her to watch the construction of new, faster-than-light research facilities. Helen smiled as she observed the bustling activity of truly cooperative galactic civilization. "We did not just leave the Council," she replied. "We proved that sometimes you have to break the rules that others consider sacred in order to discover what is really possible, when freedom and cooperation work together." The day humanity left the Galacti